No NFL team wants to finish last in a season, let alone last in history. We're going to show you the absolute worst teams in NFL existence. Not just bad offenses and defenses, only the most abysmal squads that had no business being on a professional football field. One city has even graced this unfortunate list twice. And the worst team of all? They actually set records in how bad they were. Records no one will ever break, nor want to break. This is the Gridiron.
He'll launch it to the end zone. Incomplete.
First of all, I'm very sad to see him go.
2016 Cleveland Browns. For a city that's had its fair share of losing football, a particularly horrible year was with the 2016 Cleveland Browns. They were a 1-15 team that season. There have been several one-win teams over the years, but this was one of the worst. Their offense was 31st in the league, averaging 16.5 points per game. The defense was 30th, allowing 28.3 points per game. They lost by 12 points on average. How does a team manage to allow so many points on defense? One answer: bad tackling. Watch as this team allows Gronkowski to rip through their defense, shedding tackle after tackle, eventually breaking 5 tackles before being brought down just short of the end zone. Maybe you think 2016 Gronkowski could break through many tackles regardless of the defense. Perhaps, but it wasn't the only scenario. In a game against the Jets, the Browns were up 20-7 in the third quarter. But their bad tackling gave teams new life. Quincy Enunwa caught the ball and proceeded to break 4 tackles for a touchdown, cutting the game to a 20-14 deficit, and eventually leading to the Browns losing 31-28. Enunwa played just 5 years in the NFL, 5 total touchdowns in 41 total games. If the Browns let Enunwa do that to them, then anyone can do it. And in terms of their offense, in 8 games, they couldn't hit the 200-yard mark in passing. Their lowest was a sad 85-yard passing day against the Bengals in a 23-10 loss. The passing attack was non-existent. They had 7 different players attempt to pass throughout the season. The main 3 being Cody Kessler, Josh McCown, and Robert Griffin III. Their offense never got it going. 2009 St. Louis Rams. Before they moved back to LA, the Rams had their worst season ever. The 2009 St. Louis Rams were 1-15 in the most dreadful way possible. It wasn't just the record. They averaged 10.9 points per game in this modern-day pass-oriented NFL. That was dead last in the league. They let up 27.3 points per game, second to last that year. That's a 16.4-point differential, meaning on average, they lost by more than 2 touchdowns a game. The Rams managed to shoot themselves in the foot repeatedly. Even when they did something right, they spoiled it. Like in a game against the Lions, they picked off Matt Stafford in the end zone, but then, after returning it out of the end zone, they ran it right back into their end zone and got tackled, which turned that interception into a safety for the other team. The Rams scored in the single digits 7 times and got shut out twice. 11 of 16 games they passed for less than 200 yards. 3 of them were under 100. In their last game of the season, all St. Louis fans likely turned their TVs off in disgust. They passed for only 22 yards. They only threw for 12 touchdowns all year and rushed for 4. Their offense was anemic. There have been plenty of one-win teams in the NFL. These were the worst of them. But have there been 0-win teams? Yes, quite a few actually. Seasons used to be shorter. There was a strike-shortened season and a season shortened by World War II. We'll discount the Chicago Cardinals, the Brooklyn Tigers, and a few others. But no excuses for these next 3 teams. 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers were winless in a full 14-game season, averaging 8.9 points per game, was last in the league. allowing 29.4 points per game, second to last. That's more than a 20-point differential, nearly losing every game by 3 touchdowns on average. Tampa was held scoreless in 5 games, including their first 2 games. What a way to start the season! In 2 of their scoreless efforts, they let up 34 points and 42 points. But how is a team supposed to score points when they routinely saw plays like this one against the Houston Oilers? Nobody blocked the defender, so he had a free run at the quarterback. If the offensive line did block the defenders, it wasn't for very long. This, in part, was why their passing yardage was abysmal. They never once passed for over 200 yards in a game. Slight excuse, it was 1976. The passing game wasn't what it is today. But they took it beyond excusable actions. 5 games were under 100 yards passing, including games of 86 yards, 58 yards, 13 yards, 11 yards, and in Week 2, -4 yards passing. It was more than bad team play. Coach John McKay had no control over the team. With a team like this, the opponent just had to show up and they were awarded a win. 2017 Cleveland Browns. A season after going 1-15, the Browns did it again. Only the 2017 Cleveland Browns went 0-16. One of only 2 0-16 teams ever. Cleveland's scoring offense was last in the league, averaging 14.6 points per contest. Their defense allowed 25.6 points per game, second to last that year. If it wasn't bad enough that the offense and defense were atrocious, even the special teams let up points. In a game against the Steelers, on a punt attempt deep in the Browns' own territory, the Browns blocked no one on the play. A Steeler defender got through, blocked the punt, and the ball took the most favorable bounce for the Steelers, resulting in one of the easiest touchdowns they'd see all year. 7 times throughout the season they scored 10 points or less, 4 of those times being single-digit efforts. They couldn't move the ball down the field at all, and it was especially hard when they constantly turned it over. In a game against the Texans, the Browns were nearly in the end zone, a critical play to tie the game up. The quarterback missed the wide-open receiver and instead gave up a pick 6. Those types of throws often led to their games getting out of hand. 7 games they passed for less than 200 yards, and they never once passed for more than 300 yards. Their best passing game was a game against the Ravens in Week 2 when they passed for 293 yards. But they turned the ball over 5 times and lost 24-10. 2008 Detroit Lions. The only other 0-16 team ever, and the first to ever do it, the 2008 Detroit Lions. Not only did they go winless, they did it with style. They were last in the league in rushing yards, 27th in passing yards, and 27th in scoring, 16.8 points per game. Their defense allowed 32.2 points per game. It was last in the league that year, and it was also the 3rd worst in the past 50 years. 11 of their 16 games, they let up 30 points or more, including 2 separate 4-game streaks. 9 games throughout the season, they had less than 200 yards passing. The quarterbacking was a combination effort by John Kitna, Dante Culpepper, and the man with one of the most famous plays ever, who's now a top ESPN analyst, Dan Orlovsky. That's right, his famous running out the back of the end zone play happened in the winless 2008 season, capping off a historic season with a historic play. No quarterback wants a safety, but worst of all is when it's a self-induced safety. Teams and players all want to go down in history, but this just isn't the way they prefer. These poor teams will always be remembered. They just have to hope that some other teams come along and manage to do worse than them. Only then we might forget.